Lucky here. Behind me is the Madison Range. Down there behind that knoll is Ennis, Montana, and that's where we're headed today. And we're going to get a tour. Three historians have pulled together and put together a booklet about Ennis and some of the buildings. So we'll see what we can learn there. Travels with Lucky here, and we are going to be starting our walking tour pretty quickly. We're going to go down the Main Street of Ennis, down the south side, and then back up into
Todd and Liz up. And Larry is the long time. So he's kind of like the leader.
I was born in Sheridan and moved over here in 1948.
Idea of the booklet. Larry was the first one. When did you do that?
Don't ask.
2016.
When?
2016.
Too young. He took tours up and down the street. And then that's where that idea came from.
And Kayla is the continuing education lady.
Yes.
Lady.
Yeah.
Mother to be.
I can tell you probably what took place in Ennis from about 1945 on. That would place me about 5-6 years old. Now you know how old I am. Okay, let's start with looking up at the hill where the flags are. Have a school there, two-story school, and that's where I graduated from. I actually started in Virginia City, went to grade 2, came over here, and then went through the school 3 through 12. But it is long gone. Used to sit right next side to the old gym, which is a little bit to the left. Okay, today it's called the Mercantile Business in this building, but I know that it used Madison Valley District Association in there, and we had a museum, and Liz has something to say.
City maintenance yard where they repaired vehicles.
Bar and saloon started with William Ennis, and I wrote down some notes. So if you see me checking the notes, I'm checking on the dates a little bit. And anyway, this was built by Mr. Ennis in I had that down somewhere. 1906 by Mr. Ennis, and then it became a Presbyterian church, and then eventually, I was baptized in that church as a Presbyterian, and then it was moved up on the hill, a nice big brand new. Our town is named after Ennis. Ennis came from back east, actually came from Dublin, Ireland, and he was a freighter hauling goods for everything, and he hauled from St. Louis out here to the gold mines in 1862, and then one dull morning, I guess, nothing to do, he had unloaded his load to the gold miners over there, and that's where he sold flour for $100 for 50 pounds that he bought for maybe a couple dollars, you know. So that's where he made his money. But then one morning over there, he comes up Daylight Creek, which is a creek going through Virginia City, and he comes to the top of the hill like you do every day, and he looked down into this valley and he said, wow, look at the grass. And so he says, this is where I'm going to bring my ox. So, and I don't know, I'm just repeating what I've learned. This blows my mind. So he went back to St. Louis and he comes back with 10,000 ox and turns them loose on the wild prairies out here in Madison Valley. And so that's where we got our start, and that's kind of basic. There's quite a story about Mr. Ennis, but I haven't quite got far of the history if you go back, and it's been here since the early 50s. over this way on the top was what we called the Bower Apartments. And before that, it was called Mildew Manor. I'll let you determine why they called it Mildew. Okay, this Macho Mamas, this is a new building put in here. That's not all I know about that one. This pic right here, I don't know whether I should tell you this or not, but as long as it stays with us. This is called Moore's Creek today, and that's what's on the Geological Survey, but the old timers that are still around used to call it Shit Creek. And the reason for that is that all the homes above that, up until the late 40s and early 50s, from their house, they would let the raw sewage go right in, and away it would go. Today, we look back in the history of it. About all I can tell you about it used to be the headquarters for the Three Rivers Telephone Company. I want to get down here so you can see the back side. This complex here, as you look up there, you can see the archway and how the bricks are. This used to be the old Ennis Hotel. And if you come up to our museum, we have a picture of that old Ennis Hotel. And I remember it when I was growing up. And then eventually this turned into Betty's Cafe.
This here used to have a building. In that building, okay, Dr. Clancy, yeah. There was a building here, and it got moved down on the other side of the street, next to where the library is. And then that, when they turned that building.
One time that was called the Blue Heron also, and it was built in 1901 by brick that was made from the brick yard up here out of town going towards Virginia City.
Metal work and that sort of thing. And Billy, my folks had the cafe across the street. And Billy was our number one.
Okay.
That's in the original pictures that Zoe found for me.
There you go.
So this was the old enamel and cast iron spittoon that was by the bar in the pictures, Zoe.
And what was the name of the bar?
What was the name of the bar? Zoe, do you remember?
Larry Dunbar.
What?
Larry Dunbar.
Larry Dunbar.
Larry Dunbar.
Okay. Oh, I don't have it here. I have Larry Dunn's calendar from the bar.
Whoa.
Fireplace?
No, it's gone. No, but I found when they redug the sewer lines, they dug where the outhouse was, and we got all the old bottles out of the outhouse because it was a speakeasy, so everything went into the outhouse. All the bottles, they'd throw them down the outhouse. So when they redid the sewer line back there and they were digging, I said, wait, if you find glass. So we went and got shovels and trowels, and we have all the old bottles from the bar.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course all the young guys are like, how would you know they're there? I'm like, I'm old.
Jeffer's sisters, there's 3 sisters. Bill, what's the other? Catherine. Bill, Catherine, and old age just stepped in.
And it was built in 1941. And how many have been to a movie in here? Well, probably not. Oh, okay. It used to be, there was a little niche down in there like that. And when I was in high school, I was practicing out. You go down there about every 30 minutes and flash it over there, because that's where the lovers went. The young teenagers, they take their girls over there in that corner and, you know, whatever. And so she made me go down there and say, make sure you flash the light on them every now and then. Oh my God! And I don't think I ever did it because I'd catch hell the next day at school. But this was the old theater. The theater got started actually in Midtown where the old Economy store was, but it's since been torn down and long gone. In fact, silent movies got started down in the old economy, and I'll probably mention that when we get.
All right, so this is the mercantile, and we're going to go in and look at some of the ceiling tiles and the older
Tell them about
fixtures.
the building first.
She was talking about how the property line used to go down the center of the movie theater.
Well, that very well could be, yes. Okay, this building here, as far as my lifetime, you used to go in here to the left was the United States Post Office. This is where it got started. My mother used to work in here as the assistant, and then they moved it across the street for a while, but that building has been torn down, and then it ended up on top. It started out as an old McCracken's, in the old days, a McCracken's clothing store. My dad used to work here in about 1926, and since that time, I don't know, it's changed hands quite a few times till now it's whatever it is.
I believe was Emmett Womack. They had boxing matches upstairs. And then they also had books, a type of library. And then Slaters moved in. They had kind of like a nickel and dime stores, get penny candy,
Yeah.
and you could get hip boots, you know, to go wading.
Yeah.
And then the talc mine put an office in here.
So Josie Sorensen owns this now, and she has remodeled it. And she said to go on in and look. She put some of the ceiling tiles around the top of the wall, and she said you could see bullet holes in them.
This used to be the LA Bank in 1909, and upstairs, there's 2 stories, used to be a library and what they called a Lyceum Club, which was a speaking type club for men, and then they had a boxing club up here on the 2nd floor. So.
Tiles on the top and everything. See above and everything.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's tasteful. What kind of building really?
Oh, it's a down.
Which building this is in our bar.
So these are.
And there was a saloon, and I think it used to be Betty's too.
Betty's Cafe. I know
Betty's Cafe before she moved up that way.
Okay, but right here, this half of the building, you guys, this half of the building was the dance hall. And there was a door from the Long Branch in the wall that would
Yeah, it used
come
to
in
be a
here, and
dance
that was
hall.
a dance hall.
This sport shop, to me, has always been a sport shop. What it was before that, I don't know, but it used to be a Tom Williams sport shop, and the guy I graduated from high school with, Tom Morgan, who used to have Rainbow Lodge is on farther down. I do mean the L Western. That was started by Morgan's, and this was a sport shop. Started by Tom Morgan. Then I think Ed Clark ran it as a sport shop. Tavern 287. In fact, 287 used to be the old economy store. And they had, in this section down here, they had where you could rent. It was a butcher shop, and it got started in 1923. Jack Northway, who I think is still alive, he ran on the end as a Silver Dollar. And
Larry.
in my early days, I used to be a grocery store run by Mrs. Fruitful.
Slaters moved down here, moved their business down here. And then there was a hole in the wall was here also.
Lee Poole's Art Gallery.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Silver Dollar Saloon. And in the early 50s and late 40s, this was a grocery store. And they used to live right around here in the corner,
You can see
too.
it better now, that fly.
So there's been a bar during most of my life. out where you see that big monstrosity, there used to be a 2-story white building. And that was where Porter Nelson and somebody else grew up. And they moved that back of the library over there, and it's kind of back there on that street. You go back there and you find a white house with 2 stories in it. That was moved from Main Street here. And I don't know who owns it now.
But from here, from about halfway here down to the corner was this building right here.
Oh wow, oh my goodness.
It was like a Ford dealership.
Which building?
Well, it's gone now. It's
Yeah.
right here.
It's about, it was like about halfway.
Okay.
It's about halfway here down to the corner. Don't give up on me, Larry. Let's stop at, what time is it? White building in the book. It was the Ford dealership.
This building here used to be a garage. It's called Nelson's Garage. And he had out front, and I don't know where it's at now, but it had a little sign that said, biggest little town on earth. I don't know if anybody knows where that at. It's original, you got a prize. At one time, this side here was a dance hall. They had dances. And I can tell you a little bit because I had a relative. His name was Uncle Oscar, and a guy by the name of Porter Nelson. Over there where you see the, where the parking lot is, that used to be the economy store. And right out here somewhere, these 2 guys got into a fist fight right out here in the street in the early days. I guess they didn't like each other, although I've been told it was over some lady. Okay?
And he bit his ear.
Oh yeah, thanks. And anyway, this guy bit my Uncle Oscar's ear half off.
Hell of a fight.
I guess.
Wild West.
I don't know. The Wild West.
Dirty fight.
It's a Wild
This
West.
building here that we're coming up on, not the log cabin one, that's something new. But on the other side where it says Bar and Grill, and you go in there and you look clear to the back, in my day, that was a bar too, Zerdy's bar and some other bar, but there was a bowling alley, a 2-lane bowling alley in the back, and that's where I picked up some money in high school. I'd go back there, and that's where you grab the pins and push the plunger down and set the pins, and if you didn't do it just right, they would start to fall and you have to do it all over again. And when the men bowled, it was terrible because some of the men threw the ball 100 miles an hour. So we had a big 4x8 sheet of plywood for us pin setters. And if we see Ed bowling, we got behind that. And I mean, the pins would just explode all over the place. But the women, you know, sometimes you didn't know where the ball was going.
The pins were set by young people, Larry Love and Zoe Todd.
And there was storage places here. This is really a new building. And you'll notice the American flag made by Liz Appleton.
Oh, nice.
Okay, this was the, used to be called a plane jumper. It's always been a bar during my lifetime. My good friends Erdy's, their parents used to run this. It used to be called Erdy's Bar, and with bowling, 2 bowling lanes in the back. And of course, between me and the 2 Erdy boys, we were built-in pin setters for the women and men's league. And men's league, you really worked your butt off. Women was a little bit, you got some breathing room, but when the men bowled, boy, you really hustled. And of course, some of the men got impatient, you know, and they'd holler down, hurry up and set the pins. And that would make us go that much slower. We really mortuaries, that's been there, it was built exactly what it's for, and that is where all the dead people go to get taken care of, fixed up, and so forth. And it was built for that, and
What year was
now
that?
it's called the K&L Mortuary.
When was that built? Since 1970.
Ah,
Was that in here?
It's more modern. I'm not sure. You know, my dad bought a 280-acre ranch in 1948, so he always ran about 35, 40 head of cattle. And of course, that's what took my brother and I and put us through college. And so we used to get up, and didn't matter whether it was 40 below or 40 above, we'd go over and feed the cows, snow or cold, and that's what helped put us through college. And actually it started out as a garage built by Louis Chamberlain, who was an old-timer, he and his wife Gladys. And through the years it was a farmers union to start with, which was a co-op that anyone could actually belong to it, but you're supposed to be a farmer or have so many acres, but you could belong to it anyway. And they gave you some kind of a discount. I'm not quite sure what it was. And then this also was a Marshall Wells store.
Gambles.
Oh yeah, it used to be Gamble's store. The other thing I can tell you about, I remember this building. Right across the street where you see that garage, that was I'll tell you more about that when we get over there. W.S. Angle. I had an uncle, name was Bud Angle, and he was a Harley Davidson fan. In fact, he had one of those big old Harley Davidson, and he used to take us for a ride. But one day, he cranked that Harley Davidson up, and the gas pedal stuck, went shot right across, put him through this plate glass window of the Marshall Wells store. And of course, lucky didn't kill him, but he laid in a coma for about a year, and his brain never was correct, and I know Zoe remembers him. We'll go across the street, but well, we might go down there, but all this was a Marshall Wells store. Off here to the right, up here, that was the Womack rodeo grounds. And I can remember going to rodeos, especially the 4th of July. And that's where you sat out there in the open, very similar to one up there, although it's kind of crude out here, but it was still a rodeo.
That's a floodplain too.
Yeah, and that's a floodplain.
That's why there's nothing built up here.
In 1959, the earthquake, of course, and they had big machinery up at the slide area, and they would bring the big tires down off of the big equipment, and Bunk and Bee would work on them big tires and get them going so they could go back up and finish the rip wrapping up at the slide area.
That vacant lot there makes me sad, because there used to sit a 2-story house there, and that was where my grandmother Angle used to live. And we used to come from Virginia City in here. First place we'd hit is we'd open up the kitchen door and head for the bottom drawer in the kitchen for cookies. That building, you can see it. It's still people living in it. Go up here to Lost Trail Road on your way to Barney. Take that road to the right, go off up there, and if you get up there and you see a house that looks like it's a huge house, but then when you look at it north and south, it's pretty skinny, and people are living in it.
When they had the sale, for the Angle house, I at the time had this building as that's where I first started the new, used, reused, misused, and abused businesses. And I would sit here with a bucket of ice and water, so the guys over there, the auctioneers and the patrons over there, could come over here and get water so they could finish the auction of the
Hardware. The Forge building is recreated at the museum up on the hill as you go to Virginia City.
All the original equipment that was in the Forge, which actually started out here in the front, and they moved it around the back. Now we have it up in our Forge building, which is a replica of the front of this. And if you'll take a look at those windows and then go up and look at our Forge and our museum, it's the exact same thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we took all the equipment that's in that Forge room, is all original equipment, and that was where Oscar Angle and Waller Angle, they both started out as blacksmiths, and then Waller Angle went into the hardware business and turned it into a hardware store, all of this out here. But Oscar, for I don't know, up until he almost died there, I think, was an Oscar. And if there's anybody that was a master of iron, I'll call him the master of iron, he was it. If you wanted something made out of iron, if you would come in there and explain to him what you wanted made, he'd go over and reach and get a iron rod or a angle iron, and he'd put it in the forge, and pretty soon he'd do his little whistle, whatever the hell tune it was, and he'd start pounding and pounding and pounding until he got what he was making for you that looked the way like he wanted it. I mean, he was just fabulous. That building there, if you peeled back all that new stuff on there, you would find the old style 6-inch boards, clapboard, and they're overlapped. If you've got a building that's built in the 1940s on back, probably, they overlapped 6-inch boards. You'll see a big white building, and that is the Catholic Church, the old Catholic Church in town. We had lots of gas stations.
And now we have lots of bars.
There used to be a gas station there too, but Baker used to have a gas station. One over there, one here, one on the corner, one up on the flat, two up on the flat. We had lots of gas stations. In fact, Main Street's probably saturated with gas stations. This building right in here was Scully's Motel at one time, and they called it the Grizzly Motel. And eventually that was called the Silvertip Society. And it was a fraternal organization. Women weren't allowed, sorry gals, but if you wanted to get initiated into this, you had to go through a ceremony, and you had to walk a route around the hall. And we don't know quite sure about that, but if you come to our museum, you can see one of the things that they had to go through. And how many have been to our museum? Okay, there's up there that was made by my uncle Oscar, and it was I don't know what to call it. I guess it's a goat. They had deer horns on it, big block of wood, and it's on wheels. And so when you're sitting on this thing, they've got a mesh of gears, and so two things are happening. They had a route, they hoodwinked you, which means put blind on you, and they pull you around a route, and this is to initiate you into the modern Winter Society. Okay, so they set you on this device, and they'd start pulling it. Okay, there's some gears down here. So while you're being pulled that way, several things are happening. One, the block of wood that's covered with goat fur or sheep fur or something anyway is going around and round like this. And at the same time you're being pulled that way, the wheels are off-centered. So you're going like this, up and down, as well as going around and around, all hoodwinked.
Well, see, women
So you'll have to come to our museum and see. This is a new building where you get your black coffee.
Good, Larry, good.
Used to be Hickey's Motel. They had all kinds of units. It was kind of hotel in the beginning and buildings in the back. Some buildings are still in the back.
And Kid Neville was born in one of those rooms.
And that
from
I
the
don't know,
hotel.
but that's probably true. Yes.
Kid who?
Kid Neville,
Kid
brother. Run by Beverly and John Saunders, and Brenda, can't think of her last name, runs it now.
So the woman that built the hotel was the first woman dentist in Montana.
Ooh.
And so she built it, and then it was sold. She didn't have any children. It was sold with her estate, and the Saunders bought it. Beulah Saunders, and then her granddaughter runs it now.
Okay.
And you said it's going to be 100 years old this year?
Yeah,
This is the libraries, and of course this is a new building. There used to be a house sit here, And this was a Dr. Clancy's house. One of the first doctors here in Ennis. It was these kind of just walk-in type of old-time doctors, you know. Ellen took it over. Then it started up again in 1965 as a bank.
There was
Lots of money, didn't have nothing else to do.
no. Well, that was the site of William Ennis's 3-story house. Catherine Ennis.
Not quite, I don't think so. It was right in here, closer to the
Catherine
street.
Ennis designed it, and it was 3 stories tall, and it was beautiful. It was very kind of modern. And then a fire started, and they were able to save a lot of furniture in the bottom, but it completely burnt down.
Is that also where his cabin was then, when he first came?
The cabin was over where the hotel Berkshire Hathaway is. They first built the cabin over there, and then they moved it across the street to where the barber shop is. So, you know, you get all these different conflicting
And actually it got started in 1905 by a guy by the name of Wold, W-O-L-D, and the financier people behind it was Waller Angle, was my grandfather, in 1912. And then a guy by the name of Casper took it over, and he was a pharmacist who owned it, and it was called Casper and Angle. And then over the next 70 years, Mr. Rank closed up shop here and moved to Virginia City. And that's what that drugstore there's called, is Frank's Drug. Okay, this area here has always been almost done for. They used to have a post office sitting here somewhere for a while. Those of you that knew Dr. Losey, he used to have a house back behind that gated fence right along
Park, whatever, in 1931.
Okay.
That's when she donated that to the city. At the same time, she donated the land to the
Oh.
and in memory of John Clark, who was died at a very young age.
But the guy that built this building, so if you look down here, see where the Ennis sign is on the town pump?
Yeah.
So all that was 2 buildings. One was like a store or something, another was like a boarding house. It was old, stinky, smelly, and it was called Mildew Manor. And they used to also, in that other building, they would have prize fights. And 4th of July and different times, they would have prize fights down there. That's when the street went straight through and there was no curve to go off to the right. So the same guy, Charlie Bauer, built this, and there's apartments up on top.
Oh, that's right, Charlie Bauer.
And Darlene Roche lived in there when her husband was in the war. So, anyway, just, you know, local businesses, offices. I don't know when it was built.
I do have one little story. All I've got is about a story. Right up there in this door, there's a stairs that goes up there, and it used to be a doctor's dentist's office, Dr. Best. And the reason why I hate dentists now is because I must have been in 4th grade. I had a molar back here, the baby molar, it wouldn't come out. The permanent molar was coming up underneath it, so they went and took me up there, and Mom had to drag me up there with tears in my eyes. And Dr. Best, I can still remember him. He looked like 100 years. Anybody remember Dr. Best here? So does. Anyway, he looked like 100 years old. He was kind of white, glasses, little black mustache, and literally, after he got through pecking me with that Novocaine stuff, he actually had to get up in the chair with his knees on the deal, and he had some kind of a pliers to work with animals, looked like to me. But he got the molar. He got it out of there, but I was sore for a month.
Oh my God, that's so you have PTSD right here.
Okay, the next building is the Ennis Cafe, and Zoe's parents owned that in the 50s. So Zoe's gonna tell us all about
shop called Bobinski's, and I don't know, Zoe, you want to fill us in on this maybe, what you know?
Minsky had this because then
Well, I thought his was a little coffee shop right next door.
Well, this building, now he's there, used to be part of this building at one time. And it used to come into the thing because there's some kind of a petition in here somewhere. And then this part, when my folks bought this part here, like about where you can see where the bathroom is, where the left side of the bathroom there was a partition. And that was an apartment. And that's where my folks stayed while they worked on the cafe, on the restaurant part. And then down the road, they took that partition out and opened it all the way up. And,
When did your folks start it?
59.
And then when did you guys sell it?
77, 78. When they first got it there, here was this apartment, and then was stools, and then a counter. And down the middle of the building was booze. And then they had what they called the little side room where they kept extra stuff. So the folks took out that partition, wound up putting the booze, the same booze I think right there, and then putting that horseshoe counter because my mother said that was more efficient. It saved the waitress's steps, you know, so. Yeah. And then the side room, or what we call the side room, is where we set up tables and utilities and all that for the West Yellowstone high school students, because there wasn't any high school in West Yellowstone. They would come here and stay and live. And this place had apartments up above. So we'd have about three boys, you know, from the West lived up there. And then the kids from the school for lunch would come down here, and that back room is where we would serve them, where there was, you know, they could, kind of wait on themselves for knives and forks and spoons and that kind of stuff. So that's what the back room did.
how many kids would come.
That building was built by Wade Miller and...
Wait for the cattle truck.
All right, wait for the cattle truck.
God damn.
I know.
Don't record this.
So let's do it this way.
I may have
Wade
to do
Miller
that.
at the house.
Wade Miller and his mother, Little Crow, and Charlie Woods, who was the
Wade Miller and Little Crow and
Charlie Woods.
Woods.
Charlie Woods was a cobbler.
And Charlie Woods was a cobbler, and Wade Miller is a saddle maker.
Yeah, and Little Crow did the Indian.
And Little Crow did Indian beadwork.
And gowns and whatnot.
And gowns, clothes, and moccasins and gloves.
Yeah.
Basically, that's our tour.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, there we have it. Travels with Lucky. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and if you have any comments you'd like to share, please let us know in the comments below.